Football has produced many incredible comebacks. Liverpool in Istanbul, Barcelona against Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester United in 1999. But long before many of those famous moments, a group of young Nigerians produced one of the greatest football miracles the world had ever seen. The date was February 25th, 1989. The tournament, the FIFA World Youth Championship, and Nigeria faced one of the strongest football nations on earth, the mighty Soviet Union, the USSR, a football superpower, disciplined, technical, cold, and efficient. And after just 45 minutes, Nigeria were losing 4-0. The match looked over, finished, humiliating. But what happened next would become one of the greatest comeback stories in football history. A comeback so unbelievable till it became known around the world as the Miracle of Dammam. This is the story of the day Nigeria refused to surrender. To understand how shocking this comeback was, you must understand who the Soviet Union were at that time. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, also known as the USSR, was not just another football team. They were a giant. For decades, Soviet football had produced elite athletes, world-class tacticians, and technically brilliant players. They played with structure and intelligence, and at youth level, they were terrifying. Nigeria, meanwhile, entered the tournament with talent, but not many people expected them to dominate globally. African football still carried stereotypes internationally. Many European and South American observers viewed African teams as athletic, exciting, but tactically inexperienced. And in the first half, those stereotypes seemed brutally confirmed because the Soviet Union completely destroyed Nigeria early on. Everything went wrong for Nigeria. Defensively, the team looked nervous. The USSR attacked with precision. Passes cut through Nigeria's shape. Movement off the ball created panic. And before Nigeria could settle, the goals started flying in. 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. 4-0. At halftime, imagine the psychological damage. Young players, world stage, millions watching against one of the strongest teams on earth. Most teams would have mentally collapsed. Many would simply try to avoid embarrassment. But something extraordinary happened inside that Nigerian dressing room. Belief survived, and that changed everything. 4-0 down at halftime, and Nigeria still believed. The second half started differently. Nigeria suddenly played with freedom, with urgency, with pride. There was no fear anymore. Because once you are losing 4-0, you have nothing left to lose. And then Nigeria scored. 1 goal. Suddenly, 4-1. still unlikely, but psychologically important. Then came another, 4-2. Now panic began creeping into the Soviet team. The crowd sensed something changing. Momentum in football is powerful, sometimes invisible, but powerful. Nigeria kept attacking, wave after wave. Energy, speed, emotion. Then another goal, 4-3. Now the impossible suddenly looked possible. The Soviet players became tense, passes became slower, confidence disappeared. Nigeria smelled fear. From 4-0 to 4-3, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics were collapsing. Then came the moment, the equalizer, 4-4. Nigeria had completed one of the most unbelievable comebacks football had ever seen. And remember, this was before social media, before viral clips, before modern football hype. This was pure football drama. Raw emotion. The stadium exploded. Nigerian players celebrated like warriors. The Soviet Union looked shell-shocked because mentally they had already won the match at 4-0. And now they could barely understand what had just happened. Nigeria had done the impossible, but the drama was not over because the match would now be decided on penalties. Now think about the psychology here. One team had lost a 4-goal lead. The other had just performed a miracle comeback. Who had the emotional advantage? Nigeria, completely. The Soviet players looked broken psychologically. Nigeria looked fearless. And during the penalty shootout, that confidence mattered. Nigeria held their nerve. Penalty after penalty, pressure after pressure, and eventually, Nigeria completed the miracle. Victory from 4-0 down to winners. One of the greatest comebacks in football history. And instantly, Nigeria earned worldwide respect. The USSR led 4-0 and still lost the match. This match became bigger than football because it changed perceptions. Globally, people suddenly saw something different about African football. Not just athleticism, not just flair, but resilience, mental strength, refusal to quit. Nigeria showed the world that African teams could compete psychologically with anyone. And for Nigerian football, this became part of national sporting mythology. A symbol of belief, resilience, and courage under immense pressure. Even today, decades later, people still speak about the miracle of Dammam because football fans never forget impossible moments. So, what actually caused the collapse? Several things. First, Nigeria changed emotionally. The fear disappeared. Secondly, the Soviet Union became complacent. At 4-0, they relaxed mentally, and football punishes complacency brutally. Third, Nigeria increased attacking intensity. The pace became relentless. the Soviet defense could not cope with the pressure and energy. And finally, momentum completely shifted psychologically. This is why football is so unpredictable. Sometimes tactics matter. Sometimes talent matters. But sometimes emotion changes everything. The Miracle of Dammam remains one of the greatest stories in football history, not just African football, football history, because very few teams in world football have ever come back from 4-0 down. And even fewer have done it on a global stage against a football superpower. That day, Nigeria showed the world something unforgettable, that no match is finished until the final whistle blows. That belief can survive disaster, and that history sometimes belongs to the teams who simply refuse to surrender. Let me ask you, was this the greatest comeback in African football history? And where does Nigeria versus USSR rank among football's greatest comebacks ever? Let me know in the comment section. And if you enjoyed the story of history being made, subscribe for more unforgettable moments from African history, football history, and the stories that changed the continent forever. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for dropping by.
Come and see Umeji, they play. Come and see Nduka Ugbade, they play. Come and see Oladimeji, they play. Come and see, come and see, come and see Ebo, they play. Come and see Showroom, they play. Come and see Pascal, they play. Come and see all of the German, they play. Hello, our streaming fans and supporters. This is Samuel Elijah Ohenhen, ex-Super Eagles, ex-Shooting Star of Ibadan, ex-Kwara United, ex-This is Land of Boko, ex-Shots of Port and ex-Concord FC of Abeokuta. I'm here inviting our great supporters, great fans, to this wonderful star-studded tournament or match in Ibadan City on the 31st of this May 2026. So please, we want you to come around to catch fun, to get entertained, to enjoy yourself, to see your superstars playing, entertaining you after a very long time. So, and I want to take this opportunity also to thank the organizer of this great event. Cheers, everyone.